All right. Hello. What do leaders need to know about agentic AI? Today, we'll dive in. There's so much talk and so much hype and noise in the market these days about AI agents that it's making it hard to discern what's real, what's not, and what is it to begin with. And, that's why my guest and I have been creating courses with LinkedIn Learning to help you elevate your leadership. My name is 𝗸𝗲𝗱𝗲. I'm an independent AI advisor, coach, and analyst, and I've spent more than 23 years at SAP helping Fortune 500s bring AI into their business, conceive new AI products, and bring them to market. And now I help leaders bring AI into their business, from strategy to roadmaps and training. So today I've invited a special guest and fellow LinkedIn Learning instructor to join me for this session, 𝗪𝗲 Li. Hey, 𝗪𝗲, thank you so much for
Hey,
joining.
thanks, Andreas. So glad to be here.
Wonderful. And now we're starting a little later than anticipated, but this is live, and things to happen with technology. So thank you for those of you watching this live for your patience and being with us today. I'm super, super grateful. 𝗪𝗲, I thought before we jump into the topics, and by the way, if you're in the audience, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. We're always curious to hear what you want to learn about and what's top of your mind. We'll take some of those questions as we go along. But I thought we can do a little introduction. First of all, of yourself, and then also talk a little bit about the courses that might be quite relevant for you in the audience and what you'll learn there before we go into our questions. So maybe,
Sure,
𝗪𝗲,
thank
over
you.
to you.
Yeah, happy to be here today again. Thank you for doing this with me. So my name is 𝗪𝗲 Li. I'm a New York Times bestselling author of 6 books, soon to be 7, about to publish my next book, Winning with AI, the 90-day blueprint for success. And I have focused on disruptive transformations for the past 25 years, and AI is the latest one that I've been looking at. And the courses I have been focusing on have been most recently a course on what is agentic AI, just explaining that for business leaders, and then one that just published a few weeks ago on how to lead, how to manage a team of AI technology and also humans. So what does that intersection look like?
Wonderful. That's great. And I'm super grateful to have you on. And obviously, with your background and experience and working with so many leaders across so many industries and companies, I'm always excited to hear what your insights are as well. So again, for those of you in the audience, those are the top courses at the moment when you look at AI agents, the ones that 𝗪𝗲 mentioned, and I created 2 as well on preparing your organization and also challenges and opportunities for leadership. So take a look at those on LinkedIn Learning. Now, like I said, there's so much talk, so much hype in the market about AI agents. You have the techno optimists that believe that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it will bring lots of wealth and opportunity to humanity. On the other hand, you have the techno pessimists that say, well, we're doomed, or this is not going to work anyways. And personally, I see myself as a techno pragmatist. So the reality is somewhere in between. Yes, but I'm curious from your point of view as a leader, what are the new skills that leaders need to develop?
Well, and I think to your point of being a pragmatist, we have to get very practical with AI because
Yeah.
right now, I think a lot of leaders are talking at this high theoretical level. So is AI going to be good? Is it bad? What can we do with it? And so few leaders are actually using it themselves, applying it, experimenting with it. And so I think what's really important is that we get hands-on as quickly as possible and really talk about what are the problems that you can solve with AI instead of asking what can AI do, how can what can AI do for you in solving your biggest problems. I was just talking to a
Yeah.
CFO 2 days ago, and he was saying, "Yeah, we're dilly-dallying with it here, but I haven't seen any good applications yet." And I go, "Well, go and ask your team, both your finance team and your IT team. These are my 3 biggest problems I have to solve." And he just named them off right away. And I go, "Tell them to go use AI to solve those 3 problems. Go talk to vendors and say, solve my 3 problems." And just keep them focused on these big strategic issues that are facing you as an organization. And then we bring AI to that pragmatic, practical way of actually being used in our organizations, in our lives.
I think that's an excellent point, right? In these conversations, we oftentimes, as experts, come back to that point of first of all, start with the business problem. And it sounds like there was some advice you were giving to the CFO. What are your biggest problems? And then see if or how technology like AI or agentic AI can solve that. And a lot of times I see leaders start with the technology. Hey, here's this new thing. We should try this out and look for a solution. Well, we don't even know what the problem is. And, a lot of times that fails too. I think as leaders, if there's more AI that we are introducing into our businesses, we have a new and a different kind of responsibility as well. And I think that is making sure that our employees understand that this is a collaborative effort, that we view this as humans plus AI, as something where AI augments you. It's not meant to replace you. Yes, there are tasks that are boring and repetitive and we don't enjoy them anyways. And maybe those are some that we can delegate to AI. And again, maybe AI might be more efficient in some areas, but really, what does it mean when we bring more automation into our business? And also when we are probably a bit more vulnerable as leaders, because it's maybe the first time that we're doing this or this kind of large scale transformation as well. So I think being authentic is really important as well.
Right. And I think one of those things as leaders and managers is you think about what our role is. It's typically to tell people this is what we're trying to accomplish as our goals, making sure that people are doing it, and then giving people the resources to do that. And so many of those tasks can be done better if you have an AI agent helping you analyze the data, to give you more information, to help connect all the dots across a very diverse and complex organization. So I think if we can think about ways of using agentic AI, even as leaders, to be more effective leaders, that's a different approach to think about things.
Absolutely, right. And I've realized we should probably clear up what are AI agents to begin with. Maybe not all of you in the audience have taken our courses yet. So maybe I'll take a quick stab at that. If you look at how software has evolved traditionally, previously we've had systems where we said, if this happens, then do that. That's how software was written and developed for decades. Then about 10 years ago, roughly, we said with something like machine learning system, look at data, look at patterns in the data and give me some recommendations or classify information. And now we're at the point where we can already give a goal to a system and say, I want you to find airfare, hotels, cabs, rental cars for this workshop, for this offsite that I'm planning. Come back with the best recommendations, the shortest routes, the lowest cost, things like that, and I want to review it. Or help me plan my marketing strategy from defining the ideal customer profile to creative to messaging, things like that. And it's more about giving the agent a goal and reviewing the output rather than saying first do this, then do that, then do this next. And I think that's a big change, a big paradigm shift in also the interaction between users and systems.
Right. And I think the really interesting thing is that because it has agency, it can act on its own against a goal, it can learn. So if something changes in the environment, so you have a new persona that comes into your marketing system, it'll like, oh, what is this person doing? It doesn't quite fit. But it'll look at the past history and say, I can interpolate and learn from this. And the great thing is you can also train the AI so that if you're looking at the results, you're not seeing the right results, then you can go back and like, oh, this is how we can tweak it, and you can learn it again, learn to learn over time too as well. Whereas in the past, if there was anything that was out of the ordinary, the whole thing just wouldn't work. So that learning aspect of it is such an important part. And what I'm excited about is that we could each have our own personal AI agents in the future, because it watches the way we work, and then we'll say, hey, could I take that on for you? And it's this conversation that goes on, where the more you use the agent, the more agent works with you, the better it's going to be at supporting the work that you're trying to get done.
Wouldn't it be nice sending one of those agents to one of the meetings that you're dreading, right? And have it represent you?
Yeah, and especially if it can, again, I don't know anybody who really likes confrontation or not, but it's one of those things that it can prepare you for that confrontation, or just even coach you to say, hey, they can understand, for example, in a meeting that it's not going the way you want. It can be literally the body language of people. especially if on a Zoom call, and just give you feedback on, here are some options of things that you could be saying. But it's also just as a manager and leader, giving you the feedback to say what is working, what isn't working. Feedback is the most important thing you could have as a leader. Like, what am I doing wrong? What could I be doing better? And to have that that coach literally sitting by your side all the time. I routinely will take transcripts from my meetings and give it to AI and say, analyze it and say, give me suggestions on ways I could improve the way I present, the way that I write a proposal, present a proposal, and get that coaching back. But if I could have that as an agent, just constantly sitting there giving me that feedback, it would change the way I lead.
That's a great suggestion, right? And it's something that's very actionable. To your earlier point, right? Experimenting, getting hands-on with these technologies. I think it's never been easier. Many of us have these assistants, agents at our fingertips on as apps on our phones, or just a keystroke away in our browser. So yes, it's a lot about experimenting. But the part you mentioned about where could this be going, and our quick visionary idea of what if I can delegate my agent to a meeting. Again, I think vendors are hyping this topic of AI agents at the moment so much, because we came from machine learning to generative AI to AI agents. It's the next hot topic. You can attract funding, you can come out with new products, generate new revenue, you need to be relevant, all of these things. But I think sometimes under the hood, it might not all be that autonomous. It might not all be that goal-driven. So I'm wondering, what are you seeing? Are these agents just automation on steroids, or is there really something more substantial behind it?
Again, you can think of it as automation on steroids, but I think we're selling it short and not really thinking about the potential. Because if you only look at the reinvention, I'm sorry, the efficiency and productivity, you're not really saying, what could I use AI for to transform or reinvent the way that I work, the way that my team works. And so I'll give you an example. If we could have, reduce the need for that daily interaction of managing managing people, and instead could be thinking about developing, because you don't have to look at the reports and things every single day. Think about unbossing your organization. And this is less about removing layers of hierarchies as changing the role of managers from making sure people got the work done to being more strategic partners with your team members. That's a form of reinvention. And for you to do that, to let AI take on a lot of that heavy lifting, we have to trust it. And we're not going to trust anything out of the box. I mean, we're talking about delegating our management aspects of what we do. We're just not going to do that until we get confidence in doing that. And right now, only 39% of people in the US, according to a study from Stanford in the AI index, only 39% of people in the US believe that AI is going to be more beneficial than harmful. Only 39%. And in China, it's 83%, more than double the population. So we're talking about cultural dispositions to not trust AI that we're working with. And so again, to your earlier point, if we want to move beyond just automation 2.0, we have to begin actually using these things, problem solving with them, and then beginning to develop trust and confidence in it, so that we begin to feel like, oh, this really important thing of having a human in the loop may not be needed for certain things, and we just expand the scope of those responsibilities over time. I'm sorry, I just lost audio. Shoot. I don't know why. All right.
Now, yeah.
I can hear you, but I'm just using my phone's
Okay, that's fine.
speaker. Directly.
Okay. Seems like technology isn't always on our side, even when we talk about the even if we talk about the latest and greatest things. So I hope this works better. Thank you so much for bearing with us here. I think a lot of times when you look at products, early products that are coming out in the market, they might not be as mature as maybe the marketing or the messaging might make you believe. So if you're in a position where you're reviewing different options, different vendors, different products, I think it's important to ask your vendor, how does this work? Is it really autonomous? Does it really take a goal and break it into sub-steps and work on it more autonomously? Or is this just a workflow where I say, if this happens, then do that next? And there's some AI sprinkled into it. So I think there's part of the confusion on a more operational or practical level that stems from that. Different messaging, different interpretations of what are agents, what do we call our agents in our company, what do we call it, or what does a different vendor call them? So some of that confusion in, is it automation, is it really autonomous, in my mind, comes from that too. But that innovation is moving so quickly in the market. Early 2023, we saw the first experiments. People said, hey, we can use these large language models and generative AI, and we can ask it questions. We can give it tasks and say, first do this, then do that next. What are the different options? Hey, we can build something that is more agentic, that can act on a goal, not just on explicit instructions. Fast forward towards summer last year, fall of last year, the first vendors started coming out with their first agentic capabilities in products. From experiments to enterprise grade quality, Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, Workday, Oracle. Pretty much any vendor these days says they're embedding agents in the technology. What do you make of that?
Again, I think it's a lot of buzzwords right now. Again, from what I can see, the agents that are out there are getting so specialized into various functions and roles within functions. So you not just have a marketing AI, you have a go-to-market AI, you have an email marketing AI, you have a social media, and in that area, just responsive marketing too as well. So it's getting so specialized because the roles that people have are very specialized. And the reality is a lot of it is still very custom, because even if you think about it, if you hire a new employee into a role, you have to train them. They may know how to do that job at another company, but you have to train them on the way they do it at your company. And it's the same thing with an agent. So you can't, it's very, very difficult to just take something off the shelf, so to speak, and make it customized. So the reality is there's a lot of potential here, but we're still very, very much in the early days. And work with all of these vendors, especially if you're already using their platforms, but set your expectations really low. The possibilities are very high, but keep your expectations really low, especially in these early days. And expect that you can do just a little bit at a time, instead of asking for the roles to be completely taken over by an AI agent right from the very beginning. Right. And one thing I would also encourage, make sure there's transparency into how the AI agent is learning. Because if it doesn't do something the right way, you need to have that transparency and have the agent explain how did it make its decisions, so that you can troubleshoot and figure out, oh, you used the wrong data set, or you made the wrong assumption here. So if it can't tell you and explain why it made its decision, you can't train it.
Right, and a lot of times I also see the questions of, should we build this ourselves, or how much do we actually need to build ourselves? And I'm reminded of when we were talking about machine learning 6-7 years ago, and every company started to build their own models, gather their data, and they thought it's actually pretty difficult. It's pretty hard. We don't have the data. It's not good. It's not complete. It's not fresh. It's not what we actually need. And I think this time around, you can replace the term machine learning with AI agents or agentic AI. Do we need to build everything? And typically my recommendation is, no, you don't need to build everything, right? Look to your vendors, look to who you already have in your technology stack, and see what are they offering? What does their roadmap look like? Do they have anything available already today? And does it really solve a business need and a business problem? Coming back to your example with the CFO in your recent conversation, is there a problem that we have? Does a vendor that we have in our stack already offer something that we can use? And then or start small, but be decisive. Exploring this, but also be committed that, hey, we take this into our organization, but we want to make sure that, again, we bring our people along. We're transparent about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it will benefit our team sincerely, and how it benefits our organization.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because you can try to build these things. And frankly, I do think you should try to build a little bit, because building in order to buy as a very knowledgeable buyer is really important. And you talk about that. And in particular, understanding your workflow. People say, oh, I understand my workflow. Actually, most people do not understand and have mapped out the workflow. So if you don't even understand how your workflow is in the way that an agent would think about it, like truly mapped it out, then it's very difficult to explain to a vendor, well, this is what my workflow looks like. So we think we do, but when you actually start mapping it out, you actually realize you don't. Even the people doing it, when they sit down and go, oh, I forgot a step here. These are very important things to start mapping out right now, so that you can figure out where AI and then eventually agentic AI can help you in that workflow.
You know, that makes absolute sense, and especially talk to the people on the ground doing the work day in, day out. They know the variations, they know what works and what doesn't, and where opportunities are. You certainly need the sponsorship top down, but I think a lot of times also the good ideas come in a grassroots, bottom up type approach. By the way, folks, for those of you in the audience, if you have a question that you'd like to ask Xiaolin or myself, please feel free to put it in the chat. We'll pick it up in a minute or two. You know, we've already covered quite a bit about leadership. What do you need to be aware of as a leader, as you look into things like agentic AI? How can you become knowledgeable or more knowledgeable before you talk to your vendor? And you know, lately there's been another topic that we've seen in the news, especially in the tech news. It's been these memos by CEOs about becoming AI first. And you know, we started conversations about this session probably a month ago or so, before we set up the event. And at that time, it was Shopify. That was the only one where their CEO had come out and said, look, we want to be AI first. We're not hiring any new positions unless you can prove us within Shopify that we cannot do the work with AI. We want to be AI first. A week ago, Duolingo and their CEO published a similar memo. We have to be AI first. We are reducing the number of contractors to do work for us. We want to delegate that to AI and to agents. And then, what, 3 days ago, probably Fiverr's CEO said, let me break it to you. There's a harsh reality. Yes, AI is coming for your jobs. So within the last 3-4 weeks, we've seen these 3 examples. And I'm just wondering, are we going to see more of that? Are CEOs willing to do permanent damage to their company culture? Because yes, there is a need to react, and yes, there is change coming, and I think it's important we're aware of it and we address it. But I can't help but wonder, is that even the right approach to say we want to be AI first? We're the people in this, and then secondly, AI is coming for your job. Well, how are leaders and companies supporting the employees to be the most valuable asset that a company has?
Right, and I haven't seen the Fiverr announcement. But I think the way that the Shopify and Duolingo CEOs put it is that this is very much a part of our culture, in that we learn, we continue to grow, we want to be a top performing teams, world-class talent, and we will always put our people first. And I think they're being very honest, and also trying to be as fair as possible to say, this is how we're going to keep moving forward. AI is going to be extremely important to us, and people using AI are going to be very important to us. So instead of treating AI as a replacement, if they're using it as an enablement for them to do more jobs, to get to do more, to be superhuman, so to speak. But also the reality is, they may not need as many people. And the most forward-thinking ones are saying, for example, when IKEA put in AI and reduced their customer service by 8,500 people, they reskilled them. to becoming household designers and advisors. So they said, they already know our products, they know our customers, and we're not going to lose that valuable information, but we're going to grow our design business instead. So that's a form of reinvention that I think that leaders need to be much more creative about. So you asked earlier, what are the important skills that leaders have to have? And I do think it's creativity and imagination. Instead of just saying, oh, I can use AI for efficiency and productivity and cut people, how do I reinvent my business?
Yes.
How do I think about using this incredible asset we have? And so when leaders can be forthright and have an AI strategy that incorporates the best of what they do inherently, but also use AI to create a more customer-centric, a more employee forward organization, then those are good things. But we also have leaders and organizations that will take the efficiency and productivity route. So hopefully you work for an organization for yourself with a forward-thinking leadership team that will think about reinvention rather than just replacement.
And I think that's another opportunity for leaders, like you said. Also, how do you want to show up? How do you want to be perceived as a leader within your organization? I think it's one thing to communicate it within your organization. It's another to choose to communicate it externally, or if there's a risk that this memo is getting leaked. But I think the way you show up and you communicate with your employees and to your employees what you're doing and why and how you're supporting them, I think there's a big opportunity in the example of IKEA that you mentioned, redeploying knowledgeable team members and employees and growing them into roles where this knowledge is still extremely valuable, and it would take a long time to train new employees just for this role, right? But hey, we don't need as many people in customer service, but we have a higher need for more personal interaction with our customers and advise them and so on. So definitely.
Yeah, one of the things I'm thinking about here is the way that those two companies, again, I don't know Fiverr, but Shopify and Duolingo, they released and made public internal memos to their employees. And I think the best in class will be to have communications internally and externally. The whole last chapter of our book is about communication to all of your stakeholders about what your strategy is. Because if no one knows what your strategy is, then they're going to be like, what are you doing? Why are you making all these changes? What are you going to do with this? What's the long-term prognosis? And how are you going to impact us as customers, as shareholders, and especially as employees?
Yeah.
So the more transparent you can be about this, and also consistent in saying, this is what we believe it means to be a company in this space. AI is going to be a core part of what we do. And we're going to continue to do this for the best of all of our stakeholders, and to say this is what it means for everyone.
So, I'm curious.
But you need to have a strategy to do that.
Very true, right? And I think to some extent we'll see over the next couple of weeks and months what else the public reaction to statements like this is. Is the public at large excited about this? Is it more the financial markets and investors who are excited about this? What do we hear from employees, maybe as more media and coverage comes out? So I think some of that can also inform what your strategy and your communication strategy should look like, or how that might evolve. But
if you look at the Duolingo announcement and all the comments that came out after that, there was a lot of pushback. Less so from Shopify, which is a B2B company, but Duolingo being B2C, a lot of people were reading that and saying, I don't believe in this company. They don't treat their employees well, which is not what the memo said. It said just the opposite. But the way, again, the sentiment, at least in the United States, about AI is that unless you clearly communicate and understand this is the environment that we're operating in, you're going to have a backlash. So I think leaders are in a really tough position right now. And again, to be more pragmatic, be practical, demystify it, debunk the myths that are out there, and talk in very plain terms. This is what we're doing with AI. This is how it's going to be beneficial for all of our stakeholders. This is how we're taking care of employees. This is how we're safeguarding your privacy. This is how we're mitigating bias and addressing each of those fears in a very tangible way. I think we need that level of transparency from leadership, especially right now in this time.
I couldn't agree more, right? There's, again, so much fuzziness, so much, so many assumptions, that the things that you say and the things that you do not say, where people interpret, what does that actually mean? And I think a lot of times we also see that those who are learning about the technology will ask themselves, well, does AI, do agents now make us obsolete? Am I just training this thing and in 3 months or 6 months, I'm out of a job? Or where is this going? And I think a lot of times it's similar to the technology evolutions that we've seen before, right? It's about augmentation, it's partially about automation, but it's also about evolving for us in our professional skills to be relevant and to adapt to the changing times in a way, right? We've always had to evolve our skills, and it just feels now it's faster, it's more frequent in this day and age. And by the way, also that's why I think courses on LinkedIn Learning, like yours, about what are what is agentic AI, how can you use it as a manager, or also how do you prepare your organization if you want to look at mine. Those are great resources to get started as a leader, to learn what does it actually mean, what is everybody talking about, and what are some real tangible examples of where I can use this.
Right. And I think your course does a great job of laying it out step by step by step. Like, this is what agentic AI is, and very practical examples and things that you can do and try. So again, I think it's so important to just demystify it, make it very concrete, make it as real as possible. And the reality is people have dabbled in it a little bit, but not actually used it to do real work and to really make a difference in their organizations and in their own personal work as leaders.
True, absolutely. So look, we're getting close to the end of today's live stream, and I know we started a little later than expected. 𝗪𝗲, maybe I'll give you the floor to wrap us up. What are the most important things that leaders need to know about AI agents?
Well, I think the most important thing to know is that it's an evolution, and that it will evolve from the way that we typically use AI today to, as we begin to trust it more and more, we need to learn how to very specifically trust it to do things so that we can delegate to them. In the same way that we have a new employee coming in, we trust them over time to give them the work, and we don't have to have oversight. And it's only when we trust them and understand what they do, and they do it competently, we have the metrics and the management tools in place to manage AI as we do employees, where that way, that's the only time then that we can really leverage that power that agentic AI can give us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's so powerful. I wanted to thank you for your time today, sharing your insights with us. It's been a great session, lots of learnings for me as well, from your conversations with leaders, with different companies, the work that you've done. I'll just bring up the slide one more time for those of you in the audience. If you'd like to learn more about the courses that 𝗪𝗲 and I have on LinkedIn Learning, these are the 4. 𝗪𝗲 has been working with LinkedIn Learning for a little longer than I have, so there are even more on other topics about digital transformation. Check them out as well. Give us a follow on LinkedIn Learning to learn about how you can bring AI to your business and what it means to bring that change to the organization. 𝗪𝗲, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Andreas.
Wonderful. All right, thank you so much in the audience, folks, and